You don't belong in this family. Vanessa's voice cut through the air like a blade, sharp and frigid, shattering the heavy silence in the living room. I stood there, rooted to the spot. My eyes locked on her. My suitcase waited by the door, stuffed with the few belongings I could call my own. My dad lingered nearby, as he always did, quiet, head down, avoiding my gaze. Vanessa, though? She stared right at me, her expression as cold and unyielding as ever. I don't get it, I stammered, my voice shaky. Why are you sending me away? It's for the best, she replied. Her tone crisp, final. You'll be happier with your aunt and uncle. This arrangement hasn't worked for anyone. She said it so matter-of-factly. Like kicking me out of my own life was just another chore she'd checked off her list. My name's Emily, and I was 15 when my stepmother, Vanessa, decided I didn't fit into her perfect little family portrait. My mom died when I was 9, leaving me and dad to muddle through the grief together. We were close back then. Or at least I thought we were. I missed her every day, but we had each other until Vanessa showed up. She wasn't outright vicious, but her indifference was its own kind of cruelty. She married Dad, brought her daughter Sophie into our home, and made it clear from day one that I was an outsider. They were her priority, I was just there. Over time it only got worse. She breezed past me at dinner like I was invisible, brush off my grades or awards with a shrug, and find sly ways to nudge me further out of the picture. Dad? He'd mutter something about keeping the peace and tell me to try harder, but he never once stood up for me. By the time Vanessa shipped me off to live with distant relatives, I'd stopped hoping he ever would. Life with my aunt and uncle wasn't awful, but it wasn't home. They were decent enough, never mean, just detached. I felt like a tenant, not family. I worked part-time after school, stashing every penny for college, and buried myself in books to escape the loneliness. It wasn't until I started volunteering that I found something real, something mine. Helping others gave me purpose, a spark I hadn't felt in years. By 25, I'd turned that spark into a fire. Founding a nonprofit called Horizon Reach to lift up people the world had forgotten. I hadn't thought about Vanessa in ages. The bitterness faded, not because I forgave her, but because I built a life too full to waste on her memory. Horizon Reach started small, just me and a handful of volunteers, scraping by on grit and small donations. But it grew. We funded scholarships, supported struggling businesses, rebuilt lives. By 32, we were a force, one of the most respected nonprofits around. One afternoon, I was in my office, sifting through grant applications, my favorite part of the job. Reading stories of grit and hope, figuring out how to help, always got me. My assistant, Mia, dropped a news stack on my desk. Fresh batch, she said with a grin. I grabbed the top folder and my heart stopped. Vanessa Carter. My stepmother's name glared up at me like a ghost clawing out of the past. I laughed, a shaky, disbelieving sound. The irony was almost too much. Vanessa, the woman who'd tossed me out like trash, was now begging my organization for help. Her application? A plea to save her failing café, some retirement project she'd sunk her savings into. Mia caught my expression. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I said, shoving the folder back. Just a name I know. Good no or bad no? She pressed, eyebrow raised. Complicated, I muttered. That night, I couldn't shake it. The absurdity, the anger, it all churned inside me. Vanessa needing me? After everything? Part of me wanted to shred her application and call it justice. But another part, quieter, heavier, felt something else. Sadness, maybe? Or a challenge. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about what I'd do with the power I held. Next morning, I spread her file across my desk, coffee going cold as I read. Her cafe was a mess, rising costs. No customers, desperate employees. I could almost hear her voice, cool and detached. It's for the greater good. Like that excused anything. Mia popped in, reminding me of a board meeting. But I barely heard her. My mind was spinning. Approve it? Reject it? Neither felt right. Later, I called my mentor, Rachel. She'd been my rock since Horizon Reach began, always steering me through the tough calls. What's eating you? She asked the second she picked up. I spilled it all, Vanessa, the cafe, the past clawing at me. I want to trash it, I admitted. But what if this is some kind of test? Rachel paused. Does she know it's your organization? No way, I said. She'd never have applied if she did. Then it's not about her. Rachel said firmly. It's about you. Who do you want to be right now? Her words hit like a punch. I wanted to do the right thing, whatever that was. Take your time, she added. You don't have to decide today. That night, I dug back into Vanessa's file with a clearer head. Her cafe wasn't my problem, but her staff was. They didn't deserve to suffer for her mistakes. This wasn't just about her fate, it was about the leader I wanted to be. By morning, I drafted a plan. Partial funding but with strings. Workshops, marketing upgrades, accountability. If she wanted my help, she'd have to earn it. The real test came when I decided to face her. Mia thought I was crazy. You don't owe her this, she said, hand on my desk. Email it and be done. I know, I replied. But this isn't for her. It's for me. 2 days later, I walked into Vanessa's cafe. It was a tired little place, worn floors, outdated menu, a faint air of defeat. She emerged from the back, apron on, and froze when she saw me. Emily. Her voice wavered, caught between shock and dread. Hi, Vanessa, I said, steady as stone. I held up her application. We need to talk. Her face went white. You're the one reviewing my grant? Yep, I said. Let's sit. We squeezed into her cramped office. Her hands fidgeted as I laid out the deal, conditional funding, strict terms. If you meet these, we'll help, I finished. She nodded, lips trembling. Thank you, she whispered, barely audible. It sounded real, but the air between us crackled with unfinished business. The silence stretched. Then she spoke again. I appreciate this. I know I don't deserve it. You don't, I said. Voice flat. This isn't about what you deserve. It's about the people who rely on you. She flinched, eyes dropping. I didn't know it was you. If I had. That's why I'm here. I cut in. Leaning forward. You threw me out, Vanessa. Made me feel like nothing. And now you're asking me for help. Do you get how twisted that is? She shrank back. I was wrong, she murmured. I don't know why I did it. When your mom died, I wasn't ready for you. I was scared. I messed up. Her voice broke, tears brimming. I wanted to feel triumphant, but instead, there was just this dull ache. You don't get to undo it with an apology, I said. But you can start by owning it, not just with me, but with everyone you've hurt. She nodded, subdued. I'll try. I stood to leave. She reached out, hesitant. Thank you, Emily. For everything. Don't thank me, I said, meeting her eyes. Thank the people giving you this shot. Walking out. I felt lighter, not healed, but unburdened. This wasn't over, but it was a start. Back at the office, Mia and I finalized the grant late into the night. Think she'll stick to it? Mia asked, rubbing her eyes. She'll have to, I said. If she doesn't, it's done. This isn't charity, it's a chance. And you? She pressed. You good? I exhaled. It's messy, but yeah. This is bigger than us. I have to believe it'll work out. Weeks later, Vanessa started the workshops. She was stiff at first, out of her depth, but she showed up. Jake, our trainer, kept me posted. She's coming around, he said. Slow, but it's there. I wasn't sold, but the cafe stabilized, more customers, happier staff. Then came her email. Short, awkward, but real. Emily, thank you for this. I'm trying. I hope I can prove it someday. Progress. Mia asked when I showed her. Maybe, I said, still guarded. The cafe's turnaround picked up steam. New marketing clicked. The vibe shifted, hope replaced the gloom. Jake called one day, excited. Vanessa's mentoring her staff now. She's stepping up. I couldn't believe it, but I couldn't deny it either. I dropped by unannounced one afternoon. The place buzzed, laughter, fresh coffee, life. Vanessa spotted me and waved me over, smiling. Emily, didn't expect you. Wanted to see it for myself. I said, taking it in. Looks good. It is, she said, pride in her voice. Thanks to you. You did the work, I corrected. We sat, and for once it wasn't tense. She talked about the cafe. The workshops, mentoring, stuff I never thought she'd care about. It feels good, she admitted. Helping them grow. Hearing that cracked something open in me. Maybe change was possible. As I left, I felt okay. Not fixed, but on track. Months later, I was back in my routine, sorting applications, when Jake's update hit my inbox. The cafe was thriving, sales up, review stellar. Attached was a photo, Vanessa, beaming, handing a customer a scone. She looked happy. Really happy. I stared at it, emotions swirling. This was what I'd wanted, not just survival, but growth. For her. And for me. That night, over dinner with Mia, she asked, "What's next?" I grinned, an idea sparking. Expansion. Mentorship programs, workshops, more chances for people like Vanessa to turn it around. She laughed. That's my Emily. Walking home, I felt free. The past was done, not erased but released. I emailed Jake back. Great work. Let's keep it going. Simple, quiet enough. For the first time, I wasn't just moving forward, I was soaring.